walking down Figueroa Street in Los Angeles with 1,400 people departing on the Great Peace March across the United States. We're walking to City Hall for big ceremonies with Mayor Bradley, Holly Near, and many more. Everybody has backpacks slung over their shoulders. Lots of kids in the march with us, some as little as a year old in baby strollers, many old folks in their 60s and 70s, accompanied by many local citizens here in Los Angeles and surrounding communities who came to see us off. The Great Peace March across the United States leaves today, March 1st.
What do we want? Peace! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Peace! When do we want it? Now! Peace! Now! Peace! Now!
Lots of supporters here cheering us on as we turn another corner. And now City Hall is in view.
6, 7, 8, we don't want a radio!
Oh,
1, 2, 3,
we gotta pause until some high school girls from Hamilton High walk past us in support. And here we are, almost at City Hall. It's a very impressive sight. Peace marchers walking through downtown Los Angeles as far as you can see, 12, 15 blocks, walking four abreast, and it's still, the line goes on. We were supposed to leave with 5,000. Things are scaled down a bit because of severe financial problems. We're supposed to have big trucks in which we can take showers. They didn't arrive because of lack of funds. We don't have our laundry trucks. We were supposed to all throw our laundry into a net bag, and the clothes were supposed to be washed while remaining in the bag. We don't have locker trucks, big trailer trucks with storage spaces for our clothes, our gear, our equipment. But what we do have is spirit. You know, the Peace March is really a city, a traveling city with its own kitchen, sanitation, nursery, daycare, education, communications. We're broken down into governments. We have the big city as a whole, then we have towns, villages, and neighborhoods. And we met at all those various levels over the past 2 days. David Mixner, the organizer of this thing, addressed us all a few times over the weekend, telling us that the entire character of the march has changed now. Most important and most serious of all, we don't have permits to sleep in certain places. We may even be arrested for trespassing if we sleep illegally. Of course, if they arrest us, instead of sleeping in the church, we'll sleep in a jail one night. No, it's not funny. It's a different march. Here we come now, turning the corner into City Hall. Big bandstand with red, white, and blue bunting, crepe paper, balloons, media everywhere, video cameras, photographers of all kinds.
The mayor of this city, Mayor Thomas Bradley. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to welcome you to City Hall.
We're going to deliver a message not just in America, but around the globe. We want an end to nuclear armaments. We not only want to preserve peace, we want to preserve mankind. We're going to leave our children and grandchildren better than what was left to us. There have been those who tried to stop this march by denying insurance. But my friends, this idea is bigger than any insurance company. This vision will not be stopped by anyone or any force in this country.
It's a journey of people who are rediscovering their power. We will take down these missiles. We're going to walk through that snow, and we're going to walk through that rain, and we're going to sleep on the ground 255 nights, and we're going to sing, and we're going to believe again that we can make a difference. Don't ever, ever let them take your hope away.
Message in love. Message in love. Message in love.
A tremendous welcome by the citizens of Claremont lining the streets. In fact, because we couldn't sleep in our campground in the area for lack of insurance, which prevented us from getting a permit, the citizens of Claremont, California have taken us into their churches, their homes, and their hearts. 400 of us are going to sleep at one church, 300 at another. The third church will take 50, and then 25 in a couple of synagogues, and then I believe 100 people are going to open their homes to us, or at least their front lawns and driveways for our tents and sleeping bags. Claremont, California.
It was really touching, the reception that we got in this town. It really showed me that we can do it.
If this is going to happen to us all the way across the country, how are we going to endure all this love and affection?
It's wonderful. I think that we're all going to grow so much on this trip.
This is precisely what the march was intended to do.
Exactly, reaching out to the people. I think it's so important.
It's happening. It's so beautiful. We're stuck here on the edge of the desert, 10 miles outside of Barstow, California. We arrived Monday evening in a very hard rain with fierce 50-mile-an-hour winds and cold, cold temperatures. As we entered camp, many people were shivering, couldn't find their tents or their sleeping bags, wandered around disoriented, and fell victim to hypothermia. We've been here 5 days now on the same campsite. People are getting very restless, even beginning to break up into splinter groups. A rumor spread very quickly that pro-peace had folded. There's an all-city meeting of everybody in the entire camp getting together at 4:30 today.
This is heading for disaster.
Everyone who does stay has to make their own individual decision. It's their own choice. And now it's become our march.
We're still here! We're still here! We're still going! We're still going! We're still going!
And I know there have been rumors circulating that the repo men are coming. The chances, everything you see here now, the chances are very good we're going to have all of this stuff through the weekend. Hey folks, that's 2 more days. It's all of us here, with all of our tents, with all of our gear, and that's it. Our vision is of this march continuing as a march, as the Great Peace March together, working it out and marching to Washington, D.C. That was reached by a majority vote in Hemet yesterday. A man donated a tractor to pull whatever trailers we might have. 4 of us, and we just pulled up in 2 trucks with 500 pounds of honey. We have more honey that will be in Vegas. We have rice, we have tomatoes and stuff from Food Cost. We're raising money in Phoenix with the Great Peace March Day. Incredible things are happening in San Diego. We've got $500 with us today.
My husband is one of the delegates at the Physicians for Social Responsibility conference that's happening right now in Philadelphia, and he made a plea for money for the Great Peace March and had an overwhelming response. And we'll be bringing the checks in tomorrow morning to us.
March 28th. And would you believe it? The Great Peace March is moving out of Barstow. After 20 days of sitting in and around Barstow, walking only 1 day in all that time, we're finally moving out.
Right now, Dan Chavez has demonstrated that he's a reasonable man, and so is Tim.
I believe they can fuck us in the butt and they can take us, and they can leave us cold in the middle of the desert. I believe that could happen. Why couldn't you have done that before? What didn't the policy board empower you with Not at all. They told me I was simply a temporary figurehead and I had no authority to exercise my power.
Some people are signing the new contract that's been presented to us tonight in the dark, on their hands and knees, in the sand, with flashlights in their teeth, one hand holding the contract down from the wind, the other hand signing it.
The point is, if you're not a responsible individual, then I have difficulty in saying, why are you here?
This march don't work.
Pitch dark, and after 8 o'clock.
Well,
it was sad, Lord said. It was sad, Lord said. It was sad when the great ship went down to the bottom of the husbands and wives. Little children lost their lives. It was sad when the great ship went down.
It is a miracle in the desert. A truck appears on the side of the road. It must be a mirage in this hot, dusty desert. It's a truck full of ice cream.
Welcome to Nevada. You're inside of Nevada.
Here's an officer of the California Highway Patrol taking pictures of us and shaking the hands of peace marchers as they leave California.
Folks know you're in Nevada, don't you?
That was the CHP officer. Las Vegas. We're at the Department of Energy, about 35, 40 people holding candles in a circle in a vigil for peace. Why? Because tomorrow the United States is once again going to explode a nuclear bomb in the desert 65 miles right from this spot. The bomb is expected to explode. So, what's it like to be on a nuclear test site? 150 peace marchers holding hands in 2 concentric circles. Half of them, any moment now, going to cross the line, which will subject them to arrest. The other half in the outer circle, supporting them. Now, they are crossing the cattle guard, and very gently being advised that they are trespassing, and also very gently being led to a bus where plastic handcuffs are placed on them.
You understand? You all heard that?
We understand.
We are? All right. If you do trespass, you'll be arrested for the same and taken to Beatty, to jail. Do you all understand that? Yes. You all heard that? We did.
You can forbid me to sing.
You ever been arrested before?
Never been arrested before.
I want to thank all of you for making history with the American Peace Test at the Nevada test site yesterday and today. You have been an integral part of stopping these 2 tests. National news tonight, right? We've stopped the tests for 2 days in a row now. But I applaud you again for pressing on and going to Washington and carry this essential message to everyone in the world, not just the communities you walk through, that we have to stop testing as a step to stopping the arms race and have global peace. You can do it. I've seen you in action.
Wednesday, April 9th, a very special occasion in camp this evening. Daniel Ellsberg has come to visit us, and Robert Blake is back from fundraising activities in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles.
I want to say that 2 things Greenpeace learned in the course of Monday. They said that test is going to happen. We learned from a high source in Department of Energy, the test is on whatever you do.
This sorry effort to detonate a nuclear device in the gut of Mother Earth is an act of destruction and of arrogance. The sole stated purpose is the fine-tuning of annihilation equipment. The result will be only waste that will radiate to decay forever in the bowels of the very organism that nurtures all of life. Who in the hell are you that would do such a thing? And who in the hell are we that would watch it?
Yeah, what happened is the nuclear blast, man. And my mother died when I was 7 on my birthday. And my mother was killed.
America, America, let us tell you how.
Here we are approaching the Utah state line. The big sign says, "Welcome to Utah." And our Utah marchers leading the way. America, America,
let us tell you how we feel.
The crunch of gravel beneath our feet and the beautiful strains of a guitar as we continue our walk across Utah. I don't believe the size of this circle. Spread all around the grounds of the state capitol here in Utah. I think the Capitol building here is larger than the White House and the Congress of the United States in Washington, D.C. put together. It's an enormous building, and the grounds, of course, are proportionally as large as the building. The peace marchers are holding hands in a circle bigger than any I've ever seen on the Great Peace March before, and we've done some big circles.
We gotta go for the heroes down the bayou.
Wait, that's way too high.
And just walking along, singing on a beautiful day. Heading up a hill now, and as always, the magnificent mountains in front of us, covered with snow, toward which we're heading, and in which we may be sleeping pretty soon. Salad dressing and jars of honey lined up there. A typical country roadside store that you might even find in California. But the big sign says, "Welcome, Peace March." And here a young family, father, mother, 2 kids, maybe a 7-year-old daughter and a little 3-year-old son, with a table in front of their house, giving free cookies and little cardboard cups of free juice to the marchers right in front of their house as we walk past. The sign here says, "Loveland Pass, Continental Divide, Atlantic, Pacific." And now we are climbing up to the top of the sign, the highest point on the pass, with our flags flying, American flags, peace sign flags, Colorado flags.
Feels great.
Made it to Loveland Pass.
I'm going to the Apple to eat with my friends while the radio chatters what the president intends. Down there, Mississippi, Minneapolis near, farms and green comforts of the northern hemisphere, while Earth's hungry millions true miserable clay. Old African kingdoms starve this century. I'll read in the papers more deaths in Iran. Yahweh rules Israel. Tanks in Afghanistan. Martial law rules Gdansk. And the old Vietnam War murders Indians in Guatemala and burns down El Salvador. London and Belfast. Los Angeles and Prague. Tel Aviv and Moscow sit in their smog. Phnom Penh's red ruin was Washington's pride. Hanoi hates Peking, where the god Mao has died. I'm alone in the sky, where there's nothing to lose. The sun's not eternal, that's why there's the blues. Majestical jailhouse, our joys in the cage. Hearts full of hatred will outlast our old age.
That was Allen Ginsberg, who came down from Boulder to join us here next to the lake at our lunch stop in a little town, the outskirts of Georgetown, Colorado.
I'm only sorry I can't stay with you longer. As you know, I'll just be here overnight. But I promise I'm going to see you again. I understand you're coming to New York before you go to Washington. I thought I'd sing you a couple other songs maybe you haven't heard. The same woman who wrote "We're Gonna Look to the People for Courage" is, she wrote another song a little bit like it. It's also a zipper song. Her name is Ruth Pelham in Albany. We will sing this song for the turning of the world, that we may turn as one. With our voices and our songs, we will move this world along, and the world will feel the echoes of our turning. With our voice and our song, we will move this world along. With our voices and our songs, we will move this world along, and the world will feel the echoes of our turning.
Pete Seeger now officially announced to the crowd. Turning into the square now, Sherman Street, Civic Center, and the state capital of Colorado. Yeah, lots of Colorado school children carrying banners from their schools and their churches. Individual, creative, colorful banners, each one different, hand-painted. More and more banners coming. Hundreds of kids all carrying banners. Each one different, round and around in a circle. Yeah, it's the next day now, Saturday. We're here at the state capitol again. Today we just straggled in by ourselves in groups of 2 and 3. We walked over from camp. Here, high up on the hill at the state capitol, a big rally is due to begin at 2 o'clock, including a concert by Holly Near.
Somewhere in the midst of all of our activities in Los Angeles, I remember saying, "I'll see you in Denver." And I'm so glad we're all here. I think it took a little more energy on your part to get here than on mine, and I want to thank you for that you could do this for us, that you can walk every mile on behalf of people around the world. I have dreamed on this mountain since first I was my mother's daughter, and you can't just take my dream away, not with me watching.
The Peace Marchers have walked from Los Angeles as far as eastern Colorado. It is spring, the season for thunderstorms, hail, and tornadoes.
The sky above us, black except tremendous sheets of lightning. There's a tornado heading this way. I mean, sitting in my tent, it's dark, and yet with each stroke of lightning, the entire tent lights up as if it's on fire. The lightning is blinding every 2 seconds. Intense lightning. People are screaming outside. My tent is immersed in 4 inches of water. The tent is leaking a little bit too. There's nowhere to sleep tonight. The campground is not even mud. It's just a lake.
The Strategic Air Command base in Bellevue, Nebraska, was on our route across the United States. Many marchers joined with local groups to walk into the base and be arrested for trespassing. After the last group was arrested, someone yelled out, "You got one more here." It was Doug, our aluminum can collector. He was immediately grabbed as he stepped over the line with his large plastic bag of cans rattling at his side. The soldiers were not supposed to talk with us, but one invited several of those arrested to her apartment for supper. Another said she wished she could be with us. We didn't always have such important business. The weather was getting warmer, and after one hot day, we arrived at the next campsite on the shore of a lake, tired and sweaty. We had reached the midpoint of our journey eastward and decided to celebrate. Without stopping, the whole column of marchers stepped into the lake with clothes on, waving flags and screaming. That night, Jolene organized a fashion show using merchandise from the lost and found.
Now here's a very unique marcher. She carries a baby on her back. Now not many people can do that and walk across America. This is Lynn and Alexa. Our next model is Anne. Now, Anne is from New Zealand. And Anne is also a very good marcher, but she never worries too much about what she puts on. Just any old thing that she can grab in the morning will do.
We have Terrence with us. What have you been doing in Cleveland?
Some of the things I've been doing are different events, such as Caucus Picnic, which turned out 5,000 blacks from all over the city. Myself and some members of the ethnic involvement team attended the picnic. We set up our Peace City tent. We had literature and information, and we went conversation with the crowds and also group discussions, trying to get them familiar with the nuclear disarmament issue.
What is it like to be ethnic coordinator?
Well, actually, it's a lot of work in the field. There isn't really too much prepared for us to go on when we get there, so we have to develop our own mailing list. We have to print up our own literature geared toward the ethnic community, radio talk shows. We usually try to get access to office space within the ethnic minority community and also housing within that community.
Have you got any ideas about what you want to do after the march?
After the march, I will definitely be continuing on with the peace movement and keeping the nuclear issue and creating awareness of the need for nuclear disarmament, especially in the lower income communities. Traveling across the country, I see more of a need than ever to put out that extra effort and get them familiar with the issue and try to do something about it, such as registering to vote and not voting for politicians who doesn't even acknowledge the issue.
How do you feel about the Great Peace March now that we're 3/4 of the way there?
Okay, here's a cold-blooded evaluation of the Great Peace March. At first, I really didn't see the awareness that we were creating, but now I feel that we've created a tremendous impact on the United States as well as other parts of the world. I just feel that we've did what we were supposed to do, nothing less. We set out trying to create the awareness, and I feel that we've been a blessing to the peace movement as well as movements dealing with the nuclear issue.
How do you feel about people calling out in camp, "We love you"?
I think it's great. Any kind of positive energy you want to put into the universe.
We love you. Sure do. Everybody's all brothers and sisters to one another.
What they're expressing is they love you like a hyena calling in the night.
I feel like I want to say, I can't stand you back.
It's getting old.
First
Unsincere.
time?
Definitely getting overused, and it's getting silly and sometimes embarrassing.
So once in a while it is a nice form of energy spurt.
It makes me feel real good. I love them too.
Sometimes I feel that way myself, but not very often.
But love is something so beautiful, so personal. That's something you want to whisper in somebody's ear.
I think that it's so fantastic because it's an expression that people that say that, they want to say it to everyone, and they feel it so much that they just shout it out.
We should always be telling people we love them, and that's why we're here, because we love all people.
It's one of the only places in the world where somebody can do that and get a response like they do.
I love you is a very beautiful sentiment, but to hear a bunch of people braying it like donkeys cheapens the whole idea of I love you.
I do that myself. It originated out at the Rainbow Gathering where people did mean that.
At times, a pleasure to hear that call echoing through camps. At other times, an intrusion.
Sometimes I really think it's appropriate, and it makes me feel really good.
That's a wonderful thing to do.
I don't feel like it's a negative response.
That's what love is all about.
That the trees can hear, the plants can hear, everything can hear like that. It's great.
It opposes done silence.
It seems to happen whenever the weather changes.
I wonder how they can be so open and so full.
To yell out, I love you, every minute in the dark when you're sleeping or when you're eating or when you're reading, or it's out of place.
I think it's cute. I question that they mean what they say.
It's one of the nicest things I've heard around camp lately. You know, they'd be in a campfire or out in the open and just feel it's so wonderful. They love the world.
I'd rather hear animals in the barnyard.
You'd call it out, and the next second or so, about 20 people would call it back from all sorts of different parts of the forest. It made sense, and it felt good.
People are just getting carried away with it.
As long as it's not overdone.
When we went through that little small town between Werner and Youngstown last Friday, and I saw all the children out on the street and the church bells ringing, I realized that you could call out to a stranger and say, I love you.
If you go up to say somebody, tell somebody you love them, they should say they love you back.
That person's happy, I can be happy too.
We are camped late at night in an Indiana wheat field. Most of the marchers are in their tents. The only light comes from the dishwashing trailer and the coals of a campfire where a few marchers and local people have gathered with guitars to sing. The march has left. It's September 10th, a cool morning. Somebody's putting their tent away. I see activity over by the Peace Academy bus. I'm going to go out and interview people on how to tell a potato. In this camp, I've not yet met one. How can we tell a potato? They have eyes like we do. They come in many shapes, but so do we. They'll never admit, yes, I am a potato. What's it to you? They are indistinguishable from us physically, but they're there, lurking, ready to not walk, to not work, to not share. I'm here with Glenn, supervisor of Campscape on Wednesday morning. What is a potato?
I see people who are potatoes. They're wandering around, maybe sitting under the trucks. So there's other types of potatoes who have their own cars and they go out early in the morning and go to breakfast and then come back and maybe drive to the next site. I'm not sure how to get potatoes walking.
They don't seem to have chosen a very good place to be a potato in. They could enjoy themselves more in other places, couldn't they?
In an apartment somewhere, being a potato.
Yeah, where there's furniture.
This is a really nice place to relax.
What is there nice about this place where you have to stand in line to get your meals, eat it standing up, where you have to put your tent up every day?
Sort of like sixth grade camp again, you know? All these wonderful people to talk to.
If you're under the truck resting, you might be a potato. You know, I've been under the truck a lot of times resting. What did you mean?
It comes from the desert, and it was the only shady place to lie. That's where I used to hang out all the time. And I would lie in all the gear laid down under the trucks. And I felt really like a bum when I would do it, which is a good feeling. And, you know, I hate using the word potato because I think it just encourages more anger, more separation between the people. We say all the good people are walking and all the bad people are being potatoes and not walking. There's very little difference between the supervisor of Campscape, which I am, and a potato. There's just an hour's worth of work or so. I was sick the other day. I didn't walk. Was I a potato? I didn't do any work. I just sat around in my tent. I got better. Who am I to say who's mentally healing, who's spreading the word in a different way? The reason why I came in the march was because long ago, Helen Caldecott came and talked to our school. It was very moving, and I said, we have to do something now. And then a year later, I started on the march. But I didn't do any work during that time. I was just gathering information very slowly and reading stuff, and you know, as quick as my mind would let it. And now I'm on the march. Now I'm doing stuff, and it's still very slow. Maybe they're getting energy and power here on the march, not doing a bit of working for a cause or whatever, but after the march, all this energy is suddenly put to work. Some people think the only point is to walk. There are more things that are happening than this march.
I think I have seen a few potatoes on the number 10 shuttle bus.
It just seems like these people come out of the woodwork.
You can't just spot a potato right away. You have to notice slowly.
They don't look any different than any of the other marchers. They just like sit under the trucks or sit around and wait for the shuttle to leave, and then they take the shuttle to the next site and then sit around again until dinner time.
From what I understand, we now call them turn-ups. Every time there's a free food or the townspeople are nice enough to bring out all these goodies, they always seem to turn up.
Well, I wouldn't say the potatoes are apathetic, or else they wouldn't be here with us.
Here in Peace City, if you don't work or if you don't march, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. So if you're not working, you're kind of jeopardizing the whole operation.
People who are actively involved with the perpetuation of the arms race are worse than potatoes.
There goes our can of peanut butter over the floor. The wind is blowing. What kind of work do you do, Aaron?
I just got back from a 2-week trip off the walk. I was in Pittsburgh for about a week and Washington for about a week. And when I'm in the offices, I meet with the people who've been staffing them for a while, go over their event plans, tell them what is realistic and what isn't. For instance, in Pittsburgh, they wanted to do March in the Home the entire time we're there and not have a campsite. And having to explain to them that everyone may not want to do March in the Home and we still need a place to put all our vehicles. It was just simply something they didn't think of. Working with them to work out a route through the state.
Did you get a route through Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we'll be on state roads the whole way. I have the days and towns. That's more where I become involved, so that then we know the towns are there, we know what days we're going to be there, then we can call up and plan them, ask their churches to have us over for speaking, ask the schools to speak, ask the Peace community to come out. And they send part of the ethnic outreach team to do recruitment, send the women's collectives ahead to plan events that they want to do, send general administrative people to help answer the deluge of phones and typing and press releases. That's important. There are things we can't change about ourselves. A lot of people think we need to have official spokespersons. Only those people talk to the press. And that's simply, cream cheese. And that's simply not something the camp will ever accept. The media is free to walk around and speak to anyone they like. We had talks with Good Morning America today about getting their crews out here to cover us. with Life and People magazine and U.S. News and World Report running major spreads. That looks real good.
You're working with the cities that are coming up. How about the cities that are behind?
It depends on how much money we have. There's a certain amount of money the camp has to have to run. And whatever's left, I make a pitch for.
What about Washington, D.C.? We got anything really planned?
No. We have some ideas. And we need in the next few days to really decide.
Have you worked with other peace groups on Washington?
Yeah, we had a big meeting
reaction?
in the Directors Forum. They like us now. They so admire what we do and our stick-to-itness and our ability to survive against all odds. They realize the impact we can have on the media and the local communities. We're in the grassroots, we're in the trenches, we're meeting the people. And they're all in Washington, working with mailing lists and lobbying legislators. And it's important work, but they realize that ours is too. So they like us a lot now.
Do you think that there's room in the future for another peace march?
I am not in favor of trying to continue the march immediately after Washington with the same group of people. My main fear is that people's anxiety and fears over the march ending, losing contact with people you became close with, people won't deal with that. Instead, they'll say, we need to keep the march going. We need to march in Europe. We need to march in the South. This is going to be over soon, and it's going to hurt like hell. The Europeans' attitude is the problem in this world is Ronald Reagan. Why the hell do you want to come to our country? Go home. Do your work.
We're assembling at reception. Yeah, if you get to the border. Yeah, we need a flag carrier.
I got it.
Okay, Frida, that's all right. Frida's going to carry it.
Okay, I'm ready, honey child.
Today.
I'm ready, honey child, Josh.
Okay. I want the flags to be together.
Yeah, I know.
Today.
I'm very happy that we were in Indiana because that means we're getting to Ohio.
Yeah, Indiana's been a wonderful state. I just hope that Ohio can match up.
Sawada, the Buddhist monk, in his robes and saffron scarf, is warming up his voice. He and his marcher disciples will soon lead the walkers out of this camp, the last one in Indiana. Tomorrow we will camp in Ohio.
I think it's a beautiful morning. I'm glad it's warming up a little bit, and I'm looking forward to a nice walk today across to the Ohio border.
Well, you'll soon be out of the woods.
Yeah, and they're still nice and green and undergrowth in the forest here. And of course the stands of corn are obviously ripening out. The silk is dried out and the cobs are drooping.
She started walking in California in March. Here she is in Indiana. It's September. She's walking up a hill with maracas, singing. She's stronger now than when she began the walk.
What would you like me to sing?
I don't suppose you know back home in Indiana.
I know. Why, oh why, oh why, oh, why did I ever leave Ohio? I'm from Ohio. Why did I wander to find what lies yonder when life was so happy at home? I just went uphill.
It's now 4:30. Sawada started that at 8 o'clock this morning, and it's been going ever since with the break for lunch. Call-in radio program that they're listening to. Must be a gathering of about 24 people there. We had a potluck tonight. People from Youngstown brought a lot of food in, but it's much later now. It's 8:30. And those who have gone to march or in the home have gone. And those who are staying here tonight are settling in for the guitar music or this radio, which was actually a program on the march, call-in program with a couple of marchers speaking.
To let the people know about the accident in Chernobyl. If everything has to be kept so secretive, why everybody says trust them? Well, fine, I would love to trust them.
We're not saying trust them. We don't
have to trust them. It's to their self-interest and it's to our self-interest not to be in danger of nuclear war every single day.
Definitely, I agree
And
with you
so
there.
we have seismic recorders, we have satellites, and they have now offered on-site inspection, which is a tremendous step.
That was Ann Edelman speaking to a commonly held opinion. First real warm night. Right in the middle of the city. Look out from under the trees here and see a streetcar going down.
Gonna pack my lunch in the morning and go to work. When evening rolls around, I've gone home, lay my tired body down. When the morning light comes streaming in, gonna get up and do it again. Amen.
I leave the lamplight. It's late, my feet ache. Just these two groups singing and listening to the radio and enjoying.
We used to live right over there on the other side of Edgewater Park. And I remember walking along the beach when the lake years back was still quite poisoned and the fish would wash up dead. And it's part of my dream to not only see, as we're seeing now, the lake revitalized and alive, but instead of dead fish, very real and live peace marchers walking along that same beach.
What have we spent on the arms race? We have spent everything in the United States except the land is what we have spent on the arms race. Every house, every skyscraper, every automobile, every boat, every truck, every toy, every diaper, everything in the United States. So I ask you, is this the most effective use of the national treasure?
The most radical injustice ever perpetrated on this planet has occurred in the 20th century. It is the handing over of the power of nuclear weapons to the hands of a small number of white men who work in the Pentagon and the Kremlin.
Eleanor Smeal coming up.
The National Organization for Women.
We salute you, the Great Peace March. Many members of our organization were on the march. We are in awe of your grit and determination to drive home a message that the people of this country are dedicated to peace and that we shall overcome. In the peace constituency of this nation, a majority are women. Of the great peace marchers, a majority are women. I am also proud, though, that we did it united. Men and women together.
Our long walk across the United States is over. 15,000 have gathered at the Lincoln Memorial to celebrate the end of the Great Peace March. Anne McFarland speaks from the steps.
Speak to you as a New Zealander, as one of the 30 people from other countries who walked across America. Trish comes from England. I ask you on her behalf to help to remove your cruise missiles from her country. I ask for Pauline and her Dutch compatriots. Help get your nuclear missiles out of Holland. The West Germans on this march are angry that you have missiles planted in their country. The 8 Australians ask you to help shut down Pine Gap, the most important US base in Australia. Help to keep your nuclear submarines out of Japanese ports? Hasn't Japan suffered enough? There are no Marshall Islanders on the Great Peace March. These people, conveniently located so far away from your country, have been lied, deformed, killed, and treated like shit. America told...
And speech is cutting at the memorial to that craggy man slain in office. Is this a good place to say these things? Here at the memorial, where the great contralto Marian Anderson once shook the stone columns with her voice, after being withdrawn as a singer at the DAR convention nearby, where Martin Luther King had a vision of humanity at peace and is in good company.
If more nuclear weapons are the answer, what was the question?
Most people in the world are yellow, are brown, are black, are poor, female, non-Christian, and don't speak English. We must pull the world together. As I look across your faces today, I see a rainbow coalition. I see the real America standing up, red, yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. We need each other. We're going to build schools rather than jails. We need each other. We're going to stop the hatred and the fear. We need each other. We must stop the nuclear bomb of racism, the nuclear bomb of sexism. We must rebuild, revive, redeem, and have a dynamic movement for justice and peace in our nation and in our world. Let the word go forth. We thank the peace marchers for being the soul of this struggle. We thank those who march from coast to coast, on mountain top and valley low.
This program, Action on the GPM, was produced by Gene Gordon and Ralph Vrana. We walked on the Great Peace March from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. in 1986. What you listened to was a result of editing 50 audio tapes from this march, containing 60 hours of music, speech, and sound from the road. We walked with 500 people to protest our country's drift toward nuclear war. We had much help from peace groups along the way. Another small but influential group of people from other countries walked with us. A Buddhist monk led the march, chanting and beating a drum. 1/5 of the march was over 50 years old. The oldest marcher was 79. The bulk of the march was between 20 and 30. There were a few babies and small children with their parents. It was a happy group who for a brief 8 months lived in that peaceful world we all hope for someday. Spreading a protective aura over us was still another group who visited us continually. They were well-known public figures from the arts, humanities, science, government, business, labor, entertainment, and religion. They counseled us and urged us on. We were a veritable Chautauqua. You may have recognized some of the voices. We had movie stars, singers, at least one judge, at least one poet, state legislators, U.S. senators, representatives, governors, mayors. No presidents visited, in or out of office.